coming up on Mochas with MAGA.
And Trump is here to stay, and we'll watch him be back. He'll be back.
The only way to fix that is have an absolute civil war right now in our country to do it, unfortunately.
He fell one time. I haven't seen Trump riding a bike, just saying. I've interviewed a lot of Trump supporters in a lot of places, as I'm sure you're aware, but I wanted to figure out how to do something different, something unique. Take that same type of conversation, but put it in a different setting. So I decided, why not sit down for coffee with Trump supporters? This is Mochas with MAGA. Donald Trump has made a centerpiece of his 2024 presidential campaign his consistent false claims that the 2020 election was stolen.
And the election was rigged.
Of course, time and time again, Donald Trump and his advocates fail to bring forward actual evidence to substantiate these allegations. Every recount, audit, investigation, and court case has bolstered the idea that the election was free, fair, secure, and Joe Biden was elected legitimately. Despite this fact, many of Donald Trump's supporters continue to believe otherwise. Are led to support different people. So to understand, is someone lying? Is this evidence accurate or not? We have to agree on what is fact. And that's where something like the election, which is a really important thing I know to a lot of Trump supporters, believing that the 2020 election was stolen, there's just no place where that's been in an official capacity brought forward. Trump's legal team had 60 plus times in court to do so. And there were moments where Giuliani was asked by judges, are you bringing forward evidence of voter fraud? And he would say, no, I'm not. So how am I supposed to be convinced that the election was stolen if there's no actual material evidence of it?
Well, they keep stopping these guys from doing their job. They're doing their work, and it takes time. It takes a whole lot of time to come up with facts and figures, and that's what we're doing right now.
Based on your spirituality, for example, how do you know when someone says Trump's lying about the election in 2020, saying it was stolen and it wasn't? How do you know that he is telling the truth based on your interpretation when it comes to worldly things such as that?
Well, I feel I know the man. I've watched him. I went to his rallies. When I go to all these rallies, I see how I feel when I leave there. It's almost like something comes over upon you. It's like you can't explain Jesus. Nobody could explain Jesus. We can only go from the word. Now, we all are sinners. I'm a sinner, you're a sinner, Trump is a sinner, we all are sinners and we sin. But grace is what saves us. It's the grace. So if Trump is saying he's telling the truth, it's only by the facts, and the facts will tell. And so far, I believe he's telling the truth.
My job is covering national politics, and so I'm familiar with swing states that are lied about when it comes to Trump's 2020 stuff. And that's the center of the investigations, too.
I think that's a lie. I mean, if it was a lie, you wouldn't have this much controversy. I mean, there's no way in shape or form that you would have that Biden got as many votes as he did without campaigning.
He campaigned. I went to a bunch of events for him. He campaigned.
Did you sit in the circle? Were you the one?
COVID restricted.
You were probably one of the 6.
Of 5 people. Yeah. No.
God bless you.
They were small events for sure. And I also would admit, no doubt in my mind, Trump could hold a bigger rally if there was a competition than Biden could. Absolutely.
Why is that?
Because there's a difference in the way that in this moment, Trump supporters support Trump and Biden supporters vote for Biden. I will say, I'm not really obsessed with Biden as a person or even him as a figure. I just looked at him versus Trump and I went, oh, lots more policies, better respect for democracy, et cetera, et cetera. And same thing with even in a primary. I'm not going to get obsessed with one of the candidates on the stage, but instead just say, who do I kind of align with on policy more?
But do you think that there's more people in this country that supported Biden than Barack Obama? I don't buy that.
Yeah.
100% I don't buy that. But he got how many more million votes?
Absolutely.
I don't buy that. Not even for like a common sense. I don't buy it.
Do you agree we were in an unprecedented moment with COVID?
Did the media?
No.
There's one event.
I still don't buy it. That was I don't buy it.
Sorry. There's one event that if this was covered in the media, and that is, the Hunter laptop, the Ukrainian connections and all that stuff, if that was covered in the media or if that was allowed and not censored. Look, there is no point in human history where the guys who censor are the good guys. That's never happened. I ask you to tell me a moment in time where that's been okay and where it worked out good. Where, oh yeah, this was a good thing. Like,
and
I've
you're
heard
talking
Sam
about
Harris
like Twitter
made this
or
argument. Between Twitter, social media, I mean, everyone that whenever we post stuff, we get community guidelines or flat out blocking from the algorithm because it's like, oh, this is misinformation. You're going to mislead the population. That should concern you that they even have that ability to do that.
Or do you think Mike Pence should have rejected the results?
I do
then
believe he should have
Kamala
rejected
Harris
the
can just do that.
results.
She could just do that.
I do believe that Mike Pence should have, because there was so many
So then
abnormalities.
let me
within
hear
his
you say
cities.
then that Kamala Harris has the authority to say if Trump wins in 2024, no.
Honestly, what I'm going to tell you is that I agree with you. We need paper ballots, and we need things to be as simple as possible, where there can leave no doubt that a president is, or any elected official is our elected official.
Mike.
So that's where my point lies.
This is where I get lost every single time. I've probably asked it like hundreds of times to all these different people I know on the comparison. Just imagine, it would drive everyone nuts, including me, if Kamala Harris said, I have the authority to prevent the certification from happening if Trump wins. That's highly inappropriate. She doesn't get to judge if there was fraud. That's not her decision. We have a whole court system to decide
So even though
if something
within
inappropriate
cities
happened in elections.
and counties, there were abnormalities.
We're focusing in on, does she have the authority? Not abnormalities.
No, it's not about that. What it is, it's about the facts. The facts are cities where people that were on the ballot were put on the wrong ballots. That's what I'm talking about.
And that needs to be worked through the process in
within
place.
the counties, within the
Yep.
states,
Yep.
and so on. So if these abnormalities, which you can't get it done within 24 hours, or it's going to take longer until that day of inauguration, we need to put things on pause, figure out what happened, redo the vote.
And to
vote.
this day, there's not been brought forward. Actually, let me give you another example. Trump enlisted researchers. I forget which group they were with, but his administration, or his, I think it was probably his campaign, paid for an independent group. They were paying them to go investigate the swing states and see if they could find outcome determinative voter fraud. They came back to Trump before January 6th and long after he's kept lying about it and said, we couldn't find anything. Same thing played out in the courts. Same thing played out with all the audits and recounts.
You know every single detail.
And I'm saying Trump is claiming to this day that in the swing states, outcome determinative voter fraud happened. Millions of dead voters voted is what he'll say time and time and time
You did
again.
that pretty good. Do it again.
And then, thank you. It's a little rusty.
You need a tan with some orange on it.
Right. And that is not true. His own independent investigation couldn't find widespread voter fraud. Every single court case couldn't find widespread voter fraud. Every single audit, even by the cyber ninjas in Maricopa County, the right-wing group.
Okay.
There are always issues and reforms we can make to our elections, and I love talking about that.
Which is
I
why
don't
we
love
should make
talking
them.
about conspiracy theories to justify those reforms.
But I was trying to give you a fact, and I was trying to let you make the one that you made a minute ago, which we agree. We should have more open and transparent elections.
Sure.
The fact that I'm telling you is that a simple example would be, and by the way, these machines and these companies that certify these, quote, industrial devices, that's how they categorize election machines. They categorize them as industrial devices, just like they categorize the mammogram machine, just like they categorize things that are used in engineering to determine tensile strength and density of materials, all right? So if we had bridges across the United States that all collapsed today, we would find out, holy hell, what happened? How did that happen? Those machines, you can calibrate it so that when I put a pound on there, it reads 12 ounces, or it reads 1.3 pounds, even though I just put a pound on it. So there is a way to absolutely impact what's taking place so that the algorithms that are used inside of the machines can be swayed, and we need to have a better system. I'm working on trying to find a way that's a better system, that's open, that's available for everybody
and you're
to see.
also, I think, based on our previous conversation, perpetuating, separate from activism that could be justified in trying to reform our election systems, perpetuating nonsense about the previous election being stolen.
Which part's nonsense?
The previous election being stolen.
Okay. We're not going to go back and fix it. We're not going to go back and change it.
But I would want to fix it if it had happened, but it didn't.
The only way to fix that is have an absolute civil war right now in our country to do it, unfortunately.
But
And we're going to have an election before that takes place.
But
Do you really think that Joe Biden's going to walk out of the
election?
and
If Biden loses Trump,
No,
he
but-
will proudly concede because he respects democracy.
do you think that if they came out with Professor Plum in the closet with the candlestick today and said conclusively, here's Bigfoot and here's the voter fraud, do you think Biden would walk out
Walk out?
with appropriate verification of the
If there
facts?
was some-
How about that? With appropriate
If the
verification of
Supreme
the facts.
Court ruled, I don't even know constitutionally how that would happen this late in the game, but if the Supreme Court ruled that, I'm sure Biden would. He's an institutionalist, and you can agree to that. His whole career he's been.
I agree he's an institutionalist because he's been there longer than almost
Yeah.
anybody except Abraham Lincoln.
But on the national level, not these little nitty-gritty examples that
Yeah.
can constantly be brought forward. On the national level, why do you feel comfortable saying things that you're telling me right here could lead to a civil war when there's not? What'd you say, Professor Plum in the
Closet with a candlestick.
yeah?
There's an app for that. It's called Clue.
There's no candlestick. There's no Professor Plum. There's no closet or dining room. And you still say that there is, and then say that could lead to a civil war. How irresponsible.
You said, how do you fix it? It's not irresponsible to say, if it were to, how do we flip it back?
But it wasn't.
No, you said, how if we flipped it back, how would that look like? And I said, there was no way to undo it at this time. Quit talking about the election. Move forward.
So you don't think it was stolen then?
I think it was stolen, and I think that it's time for us to move forward.
Well, Trump is still saying it's stolen. He's the leading candidate in the Republican Party.
I agree.
So I have to address someone who's lying about our democracy day after day. Donald Trump has now been indicted 4 times, once for allegedly falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment, once for willful retention of national defense information, and twice related to his allegedly unlawful attempts to overturn the 2020 election results, prevent the peaceful transfer of power, and install himself the president for another term, despite losing to Joe Biden. This, of course, includes things like the fake elector scheme, asserting fraudulent individuals to be the lawful electors despite that not being the case, and pressuring Mike Pence to block the certification of the election, among many other actions. And while many see Trump's legal troubles as justified accountability, his supporters very much don't.
What they're trying to do to President Trump right now to indict him, that is false, that's bad, that's going to show, and God is coming back.
Why do you believe him being indicted is wrong?
Because it's wrong.
But how would you explain to someone who hasn't received that message that it's wrong? Because if I'm telling you what I'm observing, I'm seeing our criminal justice system dealing with someone who's accused of committing a bunch of crimes. I think even if it's a powerful, prominent person, if you have evidence of Joe Biden's crimes, prosecute him. If you have evidence of Trump's crimes, prosecute him.
Well, look at Joe Biden. Talk about Joe Biden's crime and his son. Look, they're not doing anything that, and that's evidence right there. The evidence with the laptop, with the lies. Joe Biden's been in government for 47 years, and what really has he done? What has he done? He to me, he's the one who's coming up with the lies and the false. Why would we want Biden to be our president? I don't want him as my president.
Well, on the Hunter Biden stuff, it's totally plausible that eventually something could be brought out that is evidence of a crime. Then I would say prosecute him. But at this point in time, even Republicans acknowledge we think there's something fishy here. Some of them say there's a crime without actually providing evidence, but there's not a link, a hard evidential link in between Hunter Biden's business dealings and Joe Biden. There's a lot of things that people perceive as fishy, but they don't have the link.
What about the names, the false names that he coming up? He didn't use his
High
names.
government officials do that typically to protect their identity.
That's what you're going to say right now. But that alone is something. What about all the papers that they found in his car and all the stuff and they're accusing President Trump for? All of these things are. There's two sets of things going on here.
So the two-tier justice system is kind of what I hear people
Yes,
talk about.
that's
but
what's happening.
In the case of Joe Biden and Mike Pence, to take two different examples, immediately they found the documents, even though that isn't appropriate and it is being investigated. Mike Pence was clear, but Biden's still being investigated. They immediately turned over the documents. Willful retention of national defense information is what Trump was charged with, meaning he knew he had them, and then he obstructed the investigation to get them back and did all these different things, ordering them to be moved around and telling his lawyers to lie in response to subpoenas. And that is where the criminal intent comes into play. Whereas with Joe Biden, oh my goodness, I have these documents, turn them over. And I can prove that's the case because Trump is not being charged for the first 15 boxes that he turned over voluntarily.
I think they're after Trump. They're totally after Trump. They don't want him, and they're doing everything in their power so they want him. But God is in charge. Remember that. God is in charge, and Trump is here to stay, and we'll watch him be back. He'll be back.
Gotcha. So when you see something like Trump's prosecutions, how then does that
I
fit?
sit there and I go down truth and gab just because I have nothing to do and it's exciting. I never look at the other viewpoint because I want reinforcement of my viewpoint. And you probably look at your viewpoint and don't look at our stuff because you want reinforcement. We all want that reinforcement.
I would venture to say I do a lot of work trying to hear out the other side.
Okay.
How do you know that you're not being manipulated into believing things if you're only going to your one source that is designed to feed you a certain type of information?
Well, you're right. I don't think that I have that much import to influence anything, and these are enjoyable feelings.
He's innocent until proven guilty on if he broke the law or not. You can say, based on my understanding of the law, I think he did, I didn't, but totally innocent until proven guilty. On just if I think it's appropriate for him to have done what he did, that's what I was just talking
That's
about
a
there.
moot point because that's an opinion.
Well, we're exchanging opinions.
Yeah, I
right
know.
now.
So that's an opinion.
Yeah.
So what you find reprehensible, others aren't. So
I'm asking you, just as I'm curious about
So-
your opinion.
so-
You don't find that reprehensible.
So reprehensible. So what exactly are you saying that he said that you find reprehensible?
It's less, I mean, a lot of stuff he said I find reprehensible, but more so, most importantly, the actions he engaged in and the attempt to overthrow our lawful process and keep himself the president. The fake elector scheme. Are you familiar?
The fake elector
Or I guess
scheme?
maybe the more unbiased way to say it would be the alternate elector scheme.
Which is because he said that he won?
No, he didn't
Or that
say.
there was something that... So what is it exactly that he said?
In the
that-
indictment, it breaks down exactly what happened here. So John Eastman, one of his lawyers, helped to concoct this idea that was to say, we're going to get individuals
Okay,
to...
see, right there you'll lose me, right? It says he concocted. So now we can read people's hearts and minds. Without
Concocted is just
without
create.
even
Create.
without
Came
even-
up with is what I was trying to say.
But what
Synonym.
I'm trying to say, well, that's his attorney. He's trying to help him get off. Just like if you did something wrong, your attorney
No,
would try to
knock
get
it
you
off.
off. I'm just
You
saying.
asked me what the alternate slave elector scheme is. I'm saying, let's just break this down separate from... Oh, my goodness. Do you think... Let's flip it around. If Trump wins in 2024, would you find it appropriate for Biden to go find... You know how we have the Electoral College, so electors are sent by the states based on who their popular vote voted for. They send electors, those electors vote in the Electoral College.
But I
on
thought
December
you said
14th,
that you
I think
didn't
it
like
is.
that. Like if when somebody did it, and then now Trump and if Biden does it, I thought you said you didn't like that.
No.
So why are we?
What?
doing
No.
that?
I'm telling you. I'm just trying to explain what the fake elector scheme is. So I'm giving you examples that aren't Trump as a way to make it less.
Well, it wouldn't matter.
Charged.
So if this is what is on the I guess what he's being accused. If this is what he's being accused of, so then just tell me what he's being accused of and see if I
Got it. So
opposed to like putting Biden in there, because during this while I was watching everything, you said you don't like it because it's like, okay, Biden did it's okay, it's not okay.
no, it was a
Biden-
hypothetical. He didn't do it. I'm saying.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you didn't like that when everybody else was doing it, and you said over and over again how much you don't like
Well,
it when people
I was-
switch it like that.
I was thinking, what
So
about?
I just
okay.
want what
so
it is.
so we can use Trump then, or even nobody. I'm just saying, are you okay with a president if they lose an election technically? You agree the technical loss went to Trump, right, through the Electoral College? Do we agree? Even if you think it was stolen, I'm just saying technically
Honestly,
Biden won.
technically, I question it due to the fact of what happened in our own
No, I got
city
that.
and
I
our
got that. I
own
got that. I'm
county.
saying
So I
Mike Pence
question it.
certified on January 6th votes that said Electoral College.
I'm in our city in Cedar Park.
I'm not talking about that.
No, I understand that, but this is the point that I'm trying to make. So in Cedar Park, they certified an election, them knowing that people got the wrong ballots. So if that
was just-
happened in
yeah.
our city, within our county,
not what I was at, yeah.
then how do I know that it didn't happen nationwide?
I just meant like Biden became the president. He is the one who got the Electoral College, even if you think it was fraudulent. So I'm saying, if someone loses an election, but they're the president, they're running for re-election as Trump was, and they're the president, is it appropriate for them to then get people to say, not the electors that the state sent, but just random people to sign fraudulent forms that aren't the lawful ones that the state create, and just
But
say,
we're waiting for it to be proven innocent.
we're the
or
electors.
Proven innocent or guilty right
if
now.
if this indeed happened, we are the electors. I don't even think they deny they tried to do this. They just don't think it's against the law. And we should be counted instead of the actual ones. That would throw our Constitution into a crisis mode, because you have to have a lawful process, and you can't go outside of that. You have to be through the process we have. The state sends the electors get counted on December 14th. Then on January 6th, Congress certifies it.
I know
You
you're
need
trying
that.
to compartmentalize certain things, and I understand people like to do that. However, when you see it from a smaller level, and as you see it go from the city to the county to the state to each state, I know
Come
for
on.
you. No. Again, we don't know everything, and if,
So then
and
what
these
should
are-
we do?
I think. Well, right now, there's a process. Unless you have something to say, I'm sorry, I'm manipulating
I'm
it.
thinking about it. Go ahead.
Okay.
I just.
But
I don't know.
there's a process, and you're saying trust the process. So we're trusting the process right now. He is innocent until proven guilty, in my book. Just like if it happened to Joe Biden or Hunter Biden, if they're innocent until proven guilty. There's going to be a trial. They're going to put out evidence.
And
then
what
we have to wait for
percentage
that.
of this room and beyond, excluding all the people with me, will accept a conviction as legitimate?
To be honest with you, I think if we all worked on ourselves more and stop pointing the finger at others, if we all worked on our own lives, our own households, I think the world would be better already. I really don't.
I don't.
And I think that's a tough question that you asked, because, I mean, we've already seen how the media manipulates and pushes whatever,
Both sides.
propaganda or whatever. So we don't know what's really happening. Like you said, we're only privy to so much information, and we're only privy to whatever fake or true news we're getting. It's really tough. And at the end of the day, like you said, it's like, if anything, we should be working together to just try and get things done right, because this is exactly what they want. They want us at each other's throats so that they can continue doing what they're doing.
Should we arrest and throw Hillary Clinton in jail for challenging her election, or should we take,
I'm so happy you asked that.
Should we
I
take
thought
Al
you were a
Gore?
smart guy, and
Should
then
we
you're letting me
take Al
down
Gore?
here. How could you possibly compare what Hillary did and what Trump did when Hillary
They called
said
in question
some-
a national election.
Right. Which I think in situations she acted inappropriately. What did she do? Her freedom of speech. What did Trump do? A
Should she be arrested?
coordinated conspiracy to overthrow the election. She didn't try to do that. Did she try to work with Obama to put her into power as president? No.
Did she?
He immediately brought Obama, that is, Trump, to the White House and said, "This is our next president," and hoorah. And she called to concede to him, and she delivered a concession speech the next day. How could you, number one, compare that to the speech? And Trump's not even being prosecuted for his speech. He's being prosecuted for the actions he justified with his speech.
So we now are against free speech, and we want our government.
Were you listening to me?
Yeah.
I just said it explicitly.
No, I heard what
not
you said.
freedom of speech.
I know, but one gets to the other. My dollar represents my voice.
So you brought up Hillary. Mm-hmm. Tell me.
There's like 7 others you could bring
Tell
up on a
me
national
where,
level.
or Stacey Abrams, or anyone.
That's a great
I know.
point.
Always, I know
A
where you're
person
going.
of color. Are you being discriminatory?
So where? So strange. Where did Stacey Abrams, Hillary Clinton, or anyone else you would bring up try to block the certification of their election, or put together a fraudulent slate of electors to assert themselves to be the victor, or this doesn't apply to Stacey Abrams, but with the national elections, try to get the vice president to block the certification and then send it back to the states?
Well, neither one of us are lawyers.
And the overwhelming majority of constitutional experts says that was not constitutional.
And if you look at what's taking place, the real question is, how did they violate the Constitution in a desire to figure out what is a working government look like? What is a honest election? Did it happen? Did they steal it? Like, why wouldn't we all want to figure it out? I mean, we had the hanging
I wanted
chads in
so badly to
2000.
figure out, and then I did, and found out that Biden had won legitimately. The MAGA movement has largely come out against support for Ukraine amid Russia's invasion of the country, with prominent figures such as Marjorie Taylor Greene saying things like,
And why
And of course, Donald Trump's response to questions about the war are mostly limited to a vague promise to end it in 24 hours.
I would get a settlement in 24 hours.
So I thought I'd press his supporters as to where they stand on the issue. I just don't feel like I don't even know what y'all stance is. You're saying it's okay for Russia to
I'm
invade
saying your
it?
concept of warfare is wrong and anachronistic.
How does that relate to Ukraine being invaded and their citizens slaughtered by Russian soldiers?
Money and power.
Warfare starts years before the actual battles take place.
What should Biden have done? Not supported Ukraine? That's the decision we have right now.
Biden had an opportunity to do
Mike-
peace, and he denied it several times. He doesn't want peace. Do you know
that's not
that the
accurate.
military-industrial complex does not want peace? They want war because they got money.
And
It's all about money.
Russians invaded because
They don't care about
Biden
people.
and people like him are, and the Democrats are notorious for having slush funds all over Ukraine. And
sorry.
and if they invade, it's like, well, I'll take advantage of the fact that these guys
Russia.
are tied up in this country.
Russia
that have
invaded.
A bunch of bodies
Russia
buried
invaded.
all over the
Russia
place.
invaded. Putin decided to
Yeah.
invade.
Because he
He's
smelled
talked
weakness.
about for decades. So it's okay for someone to invade if they smell weakness?
No, it's not okay. It doesn't matter if it's
Okay,
okay.
so
The
then
world
good
is not
for-
okay. No, it's not okay. It's not. I'm not advocating saying it's a good thing that almost 500,000 people are dead. That's not a good thing.
Right.
It's disgusting. It is horrible, and it never should have
So then
happened.
why are people-
Because they smelled weakness.
Those are just vague words that attach to no particular policy of the Biden administration.
There is, I mean, if there were no other like evidence, but there's the Burisma connection. There's the Ukrainian oligarchs. I mean, we got them on Fox News. We got them on CNN. These guys are all over the place, and you're like, it's like
Fox News is
we've
propaganda.
used them as a proxy, the same way we use
Just like
South
CNN.
Vietnam, same way we use South
have to agree
Korea,
on that
the
one.
same way we use our puppet governments in the Middle East.
This is what happened
exact
every
thing.
single time I've debated with someone on Russia's invasion of Ukraine who supports kind of what I would call the MAGA stance on it, even though there's variations. It always gets to all these different points that don't answer for. Biden became president not too long after Putin invaded Ukraine. What is Biden as the president of the United States supposed to do? I love that he's supporting our ally. I also love that he's setting the precedent. The United States and the global community, the Western allied nations, will
Western Empire.
not stand for one of our allies being invaded and territory being taken over by force. That's not something we should
Same
allow.
argument we've gotten embroiled in every single war in the last 20. In the
We're not
20th
involved
century.
in we're just sending aid to an ally.
Oh, we're involved in a war. Info war. Biological war.
Who do you think is pulling the strings right now? Because you know Biden's not, right?
Um,
I mean, you've got to be honest with yourself.
No, I've seen a bunch of. There's a book right now that I was reading about how involved Biden is behind the scenes on the day-to-day decision making.
He can't talk.
You honestly can believe
He definitely has become a lot worse communicating. I'm sure that's him aging, no doubt in my mind. Worse speaker, worse interviewer.
He has a gated step that looks like maybe Parkinsonian. I'm not sure. I'm not going to.
That guy's riding a bike on the regular. If I was 80, I wouldn't
fell.
be. He fell one time. I haven't seen Trump riding a bike. Just saying.
You can't even compare that. But seriously, like, have you read any research into the like secret societies? Like, who's really pulling strings?
Secret societies.
Yes,
The
like Council of Foreign Relations.
Sounds like it.
Council of Foreign Relations.
Oh,
Trilateral commissions.
you guys are the one who brought that up. I think Biden's pulling the strings.
I want to know who you think they are.
Dark Brandon's pulling the strings.
No. Who do you think they are? I just mentioned two.
But I don't believe that that's going on behind the scenes.
That's what you said. But that's what you're saying. But if I come down to a different appealing, it's like, oh my God, this kid is a troublemaker and he's a serial liar. I mean,
Well, I'm a troublemaker.